Close your eyes and imagine this. You're standing in a bustling market. The air thick with the scent of roasted chestnuts and the clang of bronze bells. But every face around you is watching, waiting for you to slip, to speak out of turn, to wear the wrong color and invite the wrath of an empire that could crush you with a single decree. Your life isn't yours, it's a thread in a vast silk tapestry, woven by a ruler who claims the stars as his crown. Welcome to History Orbit, where we don't just recount the past, we plunge you into its beating heart, orbiting the raw, unfiltered stories that shaped humanity. If you're ready to spiral through time with us, hit that subscribe button for History Orbit and join our crew of time travelers. Drop a comment below, tell us where you're tuning in from, what's lighting up your night, maybe even what you're sipping on as we dive into this ancient world. We're here to unravel the Celestial Empire, a dazzling, ruthless realm inspired by the Tang dynasty of the 7th century, where beauty was a mask for control and survival meant playing by rules carved in stone. In this empire, your birth wasn't a beginning. It was a contract signed in the shadow of the celestial sovereign, a man revered as the son of the cosmos, his throne in the capital of eternal harmony, a beacon of divine authority. They said he ruled by the mandate of the cosmos, a heavenly endorsement that kept him in power as long as the rains fell, the crops grew, and the people bowed low. But if the skies darkened or rebels whispered in the hills, the cosmos could turn its back, and a new dynasty would rise from the ashes of the old. This wasn't just governance, it was a dance with fate, and every soul in the empire was a reluctant partner. Below the sovereign sat the scholar officials, men like Master Shenbao, who spent their lives buried in Confucian texts, their eyes straining under flickering oil lamps, their minds sharpened to recite poetry and philosophy with the precision of a swordsmith. These men were the empire's intellect, forged in the crucible of the imperial exams, tests so grueling they could break spirits as easily as they built careers. Pass, and you wore silk robes, dined with nobles, and wielded influence over provinces. Fail, and you returned to the fields, your family's hopes crushed beneath the weight of your smudged calligraphy. Shen Bao and his peers were respected, but even they trembled before the sovereign, their wisdom no match for his divine will. Next came the farmers, people like Old Feng, whose days began before dawn, their hands plunging into muddy rice paddies, their backs bent under a sun that offered no mercy. Confucian doctrine called them the empire's backbone, but that honor came with no rewards, only taxes, debt, and a constant threat of famine. They fed the nation, yet their own plates held little more than thin congee, a watery gruel that mocked their hunger. Artisans like Carver Ling followed, their skilled hands crafting porcelain vases and paper scrolls that adorned palaces. Yet society saw them as mere laborers, their creations outshining their worth. Merchants like Trader Hu were wealthier, their carts laden with jade and spices. But wealth was a curse in a world that scorned profit as immoral. Who could buy a village, but he'd never buy respect? His silk robes earning sneers from scholars who quoted virtue while counting their own coins. At the bottom were the outcast soldiers like Jian Wu, who guarded frozen frontiers, servants like Sweeper Mei, who scrubbed temple floors, and others society deemed unclean, actors, butchers, criminals, all treated as stains on the empire's honor. Monks like Silent Bow existed in a liminal space, their shaved heads and tattered robes marking them as spiritual, yet their bare feet kept them apart, their prayers a quiet defiance of the empire's rigid order. And women, like Ling's sister, Willow Jade, weren't even counted on the ladder. Born to obey fathers, then husbands, their lives were a cycle of service, their value tied to the sons they could bear, their dreams locked away like forbidden scrolls. This was the Celestial Empire's hierarchy, a pyramid of power where every layer knew its place, and stepping out of line was a betrayal of the cosmos itself. Filial piety wasn't a choice, it was a chain, binding you to your elders with rituals as unyielding as the Empire's laws. Forget to bow to Old Feng before breakfast, and you weren't just disrespectful. You were a walking curse, tainting your family's honor for generations. Every aspect of life was governed by rules, from the coarse hemp tunic Old Feng wore to the precise width of Shen Bao's silk sleeves. Yellow was the sovereign's color, reserved for his divine presence, wear it as a commoner, and you were inviting execution. Even your hat's shape, your belt's knot, was a legal matter, each detail a reminder that freedom was a myth, and the Empire's gaze was relentless. The celestial sovereign's court in eternal harmony was a world of jade pillars and whispered intrigues, a place most would never see, yet its influence reached every village. Scholar officials like Shen Bao drafted edicts, collected taxes, and settled disputes, their brushes shaping lives they'd never live. But even they lived in fear, knowing a single misworded report could send them to exile in the frozen north, or the malaria-ridden south. Farmers like Old Feng toiled to feed the empire, their labor the foundation of its grandeur, yet they were as disposable as the straw mats they slept on. Artisans like Carver Ling poured their souls into their work, but their names were forgotten, their creations claimed by nobles. Merchants like Trader Hu navigated markets with cunning, but their wealth only deepened their isolation, their success a sin in the eyes of the virtuous. The empire's brilliance was undeniable, its inventions reshaping the world. Gunpowder sparked revolutions, paper carried knowledge, the compass guided explorers across seas. Temples rose like dragon wings, their eaves curling toward the heavens, and poetry flowed like the eternal river, each verse a jewel in the empire's crown. But this splendor came at a price, paid in the sweat of farmers, the silence of women, the broken dreams of outcasts. To live here was to walk a tightrope, every step a test of obedience, every day a battle to survive without offending the cosmos, your ancestors, or the sovereign spies. Yet, within this iron grip, there were flickers of humanity, moments where the system's weight couldn't crush the spirit entirely. Old Feng might mutter a curse under his breath, hiding his defiance behind a bowed head. Willow Jade might steal a glance at the stars, dreaming of a life beyond her father's walls. Even Jian Wu, the soldier, carried stories of battles and brotherhood, whispered around campfires where the Empire's rules felt distant. The Celestial Empire was a machine of control, but it was built on human hearts, stubborn, hopeful, and resilient. As we orbit deeper into this world, we'll step out of the grand hierarchy and into the daily life of its people, where every sunrise brought not just light, but a new gauntlet of rituals, labor, and survival. What was it like to wake up in this empire, to face a day where every action was a performance, and every mistake a potential catastrophe? Let's find out, as we follow one soul through the dawn of a world that demanded everything and gave little in return. As the shadow of the Celestial Empire's hierarchy looms over every soul, from the jade throne of eternal harmony to the muddy fields of its father's villages, we step out of the grand pyramid of power and into the life of one man, Old Feng, the farmer whose calloused hands hold up this glittering world, yet whose own existence hangs by a thread of obedience. The sun hasn't yet crested the hills, but the rooster's screech pierces the dawn, a harsh reminder that in this 7th century realm, inspired by the Tang dynasty, your day doesn't begin with choice, it begins with duty. Old Feng's eyes snap open, not because he's rested, but because the Empire's rhythm demands it. He lies on a straw mat, the air damp with the scent of earth and last night's rain, his body aching from yesterday's labor in the rice paddies. The wooden walls of his hut creak, the roof leaks in one corner, and the faint hum of mosquitoes lingers like a warning of the day ahead. He rises, his joints protesting, and the first act of his morning isn't to eat or stretch, it's to bow low and deliberate to the ancestral shrine in the corner, a small wooden tablet etched with the names of his forefathers. This is filial piety, not a suggestion but a mandate, a ritual that binds him to his family, his village, and the celestial sovereign himself, whose divine gaze seems to pierce even this humble home. Forget to bow, and Old Feng risks more than disrespect. He risks cosmic shame, a stain on his lineage that could haunt his children and their children after them. He bows again to his wife, Mei Lin, who's already stirring a pot of congee over a smoldering fire. Then to his mother, Grandmother Wei, whose sharp eyes watch him from her mat, judging every move. By the time he's done, his back aches more than it did when he woke. But there's no time to complain. The village bell is clanging, a sound that feels like it's summoning the afterlife itself. In the Celestial Empire, your day is a performance, every gesture scripted by tradition, every misstep a potential disaster. Old Feng steps outside, the air cool and heavy with mist, his feet sinking into the dirt path that leads to the fields. His tunic, coarse hemp that scratches like a punishment, is the only fabric he's allowed to wear. Silk is for scholar officials like Master Shenbao, not for farmers whose lives are measured in bushels of grain. The Empire's laws are precise. Your clothing isn't about comfort, it's about control. Wear the wrong fabric, a shade too bright, and you're not just unfashionable, you're a criminal, risking a flogging or worse. Old Feng's cloth shoes, worn thin from years of trudging, offer little protection from the rocks underfoot, but they're all he has. For women like Mei Lin, the rules are even crueler. Her feet bound since childhood in a practice called jade step binding, a painful tradition that turns toes into folded secrets, each step a wince-inducing art form. The Empire calls it beauty, but it's a beauty that cripples, ensuring women like Mei Lin can't stray far from home. Their worth measured by how gracefully they hobble. Old Feng's daughter Willow Jade is only 12, but her feet are already being shaped. Her cries muffled at night as her mother tightens the bindings, whispering that it's for her future for a husband who'll value her lotus-like grace. It's a future Willow Jade doesn't dare question, not yet, though her eyes, bright with unspoken dreams, hint at a spirit the Empire hasn't fully tamed. Breakfast comes next, but don't expect a feast. Old Feng sits on a woven mat, no chairs for a farmer's home, and Mei Lin ladles out congee, a watery porridge of rice that's more hope than nourishment. If they're lucky, a pinch of salt seasons it. If they're very lucky, a sliver of pickled radish floats by, a rare treat in a bowl that's otherwise a study in scarcity. Meat is a dream for festivals or the tables of scholar officials. Eggs are preserved in ash until they taste like regret and pork belly, if it appears, means a relative is visiting or the gods have intervened. Tea is the only constant, boiled to kill whatever lurks in the water. Sipped slowly, not for pleasure, but for survival. The family eats in silence, facing the ancestral shrine, their spoons clinking against rough ceramic bowls, their thoughts kept private. To speak, to complain about the thin gruel or the endless labor ahead would be to tempt fate, to invite the disapproval of ancestors whose spirits linger in the room's shadows. Old Feng's mother, Grandmother Wei, watches with hawk-like eyes. Her presence a reminder that even meals are a test of respect, a moment to honor the past before facing the present. As they finish, Old Feng wipes his mouth on his sleeve, the closest thing to a napkin he'll ever know, and rises with a nod to his family. Heaven favors the diligent, he mutters a saying. That's less inspiration and more command. Get back to work, the Empire needs its rice. The day's labor begins before the sun is fully up. Old Feng trudges to the fields, his wooden plow slung over his shoulder, his ox, Old Iron, plodding beside him. The rice paddies stretch out like a sea of mud, the air humming with mosquitoes that seem to grow bolder with each dawn. He wades in, knee-deep in muck, planting seedlings with a rhythm born of decades, his hands moving automatically, his mind a quiet storm of worries. Will the rains come? Will the landlord raise the grain tax again? Will Old Iron survive another season? The Empire depends on farmers like him. Their sweat feeds the cities, the armies, the scholars who write poetry about fields they've never seen. But respect is a hollow gift. It doesn't mend broken tools or soothe the ache in Old Feng's spine. He works until the sun climbs high, the heat pressing down like a second master. His only break, a sip of water from a clay jug, warm and tasting faintly of earth. Mei Lin joins him in the fields, her bound feet slowing her steps, but her hands are quick, planting, weeding, hauling baskets of grain. Her work doesn't end here. She'll return to cook, clean, spin thread, and tend to Willow Jade. And Grandmother Wei, her day, a sequel to Old Feng's no rest, no reprieve, just the quiet expectation that she'll do it all again tomorrow. The Empire's rules don't stop at labor, they govern every breath. Old Feng can't speak out of turn, not to his elders, not to the village headman who collects taxes with a sneer, not even to Old Iron, who seems to understand his grumbles better than most. To question the order, to ask why the landlord takes half their harvest, is to commit unfilial behavior, a sin just shy of treason. Once, when Willow Jade, bold for her age, asked why they must bow so often, Grandmother Wei's face darkened and Old Fang spent an hour on his knees, apologizing to the ancestors for his daughter's impudence. The furniture, the walls, even the rice itself seemed to judge them, a reminder that in the Celestial Empire, eyes are everywhere, human and divine. Women like Mei Lin face an even tighter leash, their lives a cycle of service, cooking, cleaning, weaving, bearing sons, all under the scrutiny of elders and neighbors. If dinner is late, if Willow Jade's manners falter, Mei Lin bears the blame, her worth tied to her silence and efficiency. Willow Jade, though young, already feels the weight her bound feet a constant reminder of the life awaiting her marriage to a stranger, a new family to serve her dreams of running through the fields as free as the boys, buried beneath layers of cloth and expectation. Yet in these moments of quiet labor there are glimmers of defiance. Mei Lin hums a forbidden folk song as she weaves Old Fang carves a small wooden bird for Willow Jade as secret gift. That speaks of a love the Empire can't regulate. These small acts are dangerous, but they're human, proof that even under the Empire's iron grip, the heart finds ways to resist, to hope, to endure. The day wears on, the sun dipping low, painting the paddies gold, but there's no rest for Old Fang. After the fields, he must repair tools, mend the leaking roof, or face the village headman who demands a report on the harvest. Taxes are a constant shadow, the Empire's hunger for grain as relentless as the locusts that threaten the crops. If the harvest falls short, if the rains fail, Old Fang's family could lose everything: their hut, their land, their place in the village. The headman, a minor official with a scholar's arrogance, scribbles notes on bamboo strips, his brush moving with the precision of a judge passing sentence. Old Fang bows again, his knees aching, his pride swallowed, knowing that one wrong word could mark him as rebellious, a label that invites flogging or exile. The Empire's justice is swift, its punishments creative, a bamboo rod for minor offenses, exile or worse for defiance. Old Fang has seen men branded, their faces marked with their crimes, others sent to labor on the Great Wall, never to return. He keeps his head down, his words few, his survival a quiet victory over a system that sees him as expendable. As evening falls, the family gathers again, another bowl of congee, another silent meal under Grandmother Wei's watchful gaze. The air is heavy with the day's labor, the scent of smoke and sweat lingering in the hut. Willow Jade steals glances at the wooden bird her father carved, hidden beneath her mat, a tiny rebellion against the Empire's rules. Mei Lin's hands tremble as she serves, her exhaustion a mirror of Old Fang's. But she says nothing, her silence a shield against the world's judgment. The Empire's order is a machine, grinding down those who fuel it, yet it's these moments, the stolen glances, the whispered songs that keep Old Fang's family human. They endure not because they love the system, but because they love each other, their bond a fragile thread in a world that demands submission. The stars emerge, faint against the darkening sky, and Old Fang steps outside, his breath visible in the cool night air. He looks toward the fields, the village, the distant capital of eternal harmony, where the celestial sovereign reigns, oblivious to the struggles of men like him. The Empire's grandeur, its temples, its poetry is built on their sweat, their silence, their lives. But Old Fang knows another truth, one the Empire can't erase. His son, Young Bao, dreams of a different path, not the fields but the scholar's hall, where the imperial exams promise a way out of this endless cycle. Young Bao spends his nights scribbling Confucian texts by candlelight, his eyes burning, his hopes fragile but fierce. The exams are a distant star, a chance to rise above the mud, to wear silk instead of hemp, to speak instead of bow. But that path is a gauntlet, a test of mind, body and soul, where failure means not just shame, but a return to the fields, a life like Old Fang's. As we orbit through the Celestial Empire, we leave the daily grind of Old Fang's world, where every bout, every seed planted is a surrender to order and turn toward Young Bao's dream, a spark of ambition that could either lift him to glory or crush him under its weight. What does it take to chase a future in a world that demands you stay rooted in the past? Let's follow Young Bao into the shadow of the Imperial exams, where the Empire's promise of greatness comes with a price few can pay. As old Feng trudges back to his hut under the starlit sky, his hands caked with mud from the rice paddies, his thoughts linger on his son, young Bao, whose dreams burn brighter than the candle flickering in their cramped home, a fragile hope that the Imperial exams might lift their family from the fields to the halls of power in the Celestial Empire. In this 7th century world inspired by the Tang dynasty, the exams are more than a test. They're a crucible, a narrow bridge over a chasm of poverty and shame, offering a chance to trade hemp for silk, to rise from farmer to scholar official, to speak where others must bow. Young Bao, barely 16, sits hunched over a bamboo scroll, his fingers stained with ink, his eyes straining in the dim light, memorizing Confucian texts that promise wisdom but demand his youth. The air smells of wax and dust, the silence broken only by the scratch of his brush and the occasional cough from Grandmother Wei, who watches from her mat, her pride tempered by fear that her grandson's ambition might break him. The Imperial exams are the Empire's grand promise, a meritocratic ladder in a world of rigid hierarchy, but they're also a gauntlet, a test of mind, body, and soul that few survive intact. Young Bao's journey began years ago when he was just a boy, stealing moments between field work to read borrowed scrolls, his father's quiet sacrifices, a few coins saved for a tutor, a candle burned past midnight, fueling a dream that feels as distant as the celestial sovereigns, thrown in eternal harmony. The exams, held every few years, are the only path for a farmer's son to rise, to join the ranks of men like Master Shen Bao, whose silk robes and sharp tongues shape the Empire's laws. But the price is steep: years of study, a childhood lost to texts older than the village itself, and a pressure that could crush even the strongest spirit. Young Bao's days are a blur of recitation, his lips moving silently as he traces characters on his palm, practicing for a test where a single smudge could mean failure. The Confucian classics, texts like the Analects and the Book of Rites, are his world now. Their words a maze of virtue, duty, and order, each line a brick in the Empire's ideological wall. He must know them word for word, not just to understand but to embody them, to write essays that flow like a river of moral clarity, to craft poetry that sings of harmony while his stomach growls from hunger. His tutor, a grizzled scholar named Master Li, drills him relentlessly, his voice sharp as a bamboo rod. Your handwriting must be a dance. Young Bao, every stroke a testament to your worth, one error, and you're back in the mud with your father. The village whispers about young Bao, some with envy, others with pity. A boy chasing a star that might burn him before he reaches it. The exams are not just academic, they're a spectacle, a ritual of endurance that tests the body as much as the mind. Young Bao knows the stories of boys who studied until their hair turned grey, of men who collapsed under the weight of failure, their families disgraced, their names erased from the village's pride. He's seen the old man at the edge of the village, broken way, who took the exams 7 times and failed, now a shadow muttering poetry to the wind, his eyes haunted by what could have been. Young Bao's mother, Mei Lin, watches him with a mix of hope and dread, her bound feet aching as she brings him tea, her silence a prayer that he'll succeed where so many falter. Old Feng, too, carries the weight, his back bent from the fields, his heart torn between pride and fear that his son's dream might cost them everything. The exams are held in stages, a grueling journey that begins in the district capital, a city of stone walls and bustling markets, far from the muddy paths of young Bao's village. He'll travel there on foot, a 3-day trek with a bundle of scrolls and a heart full of nerves, joining hundreds of other boys, their faces pale, their hands trembling, all chasing the same impossible dream. The district exam is the first hurdle, a test of basic knowledge, but even here, the stakes are brutal. Fail, and you're sent home, your family's savings spent, your name whispered in shame. Pass, and you move to the provincial exam, a greater challenge in a larger city, where the questions are harder, the judges sterner, and the air thick with the desperation of 1,000 hopefuls. The final stage, the Jinchi exam, is held in eternal harmony, a distant dream for a boy like young Bao, where the Empire's elite gather to test the best, locking candidates in cubicles, the size of a coffin with only a brush, ink, and their wits to keep them sane. Young Bao has heard the tales of cubicles so small you can't stand, of days spent writing without sleep, of men who faint from hunger or go mad from pressure, their screams echoing through the exam halls. The Jinshi is the empire's ultimate filter, not just of knowledge but of character. Your essays judged not just for content but for style, your handwriting a mirror of your soul. One misplaced stroke, one metaphor to bold, and you're done, your dreams scattered like ash. Young Bao practices by candlelight, his fingers cramped, his eyes burning. Each character a step toward glory or ruin. He writes of filial piety, of the harmony that binds emperor to farmer. But his heart races with doubt. What if his brush falters? What if his mind betrays him? The village tutor, Master Li, is unrelenting, his lessons a mix of wisdom and cruelty. You must be perfect, young Bao, the empire doesn't forgive flaws. The boy nods, his jaw tight, knowing that perfection is a myth, but failure is all too real. The exams are a gamble, not just for young Bao but for his entire family. Old Feng has sold a pig to pay for ink. And paper, Mei Lin has woven extra cloth to trade for candles. Grandmother Wei has pawned a jade hairpin, a family heirloom, to hire Master Li. Their sacrifices weigh on young Bao's shoulders, heavier than the plough his father carries. Each night of study a debt he must repay with success. The village watches, too, their gossip a constant hum. Old Feng's boy thinks he's better than us. They'll say, when he's not listening, he'll fall like the others, back to the fields where he belongs. But young Bao doesn't hear them, or he chooses not to, his world narrowed to the scroll before him. The characters that dance under his brush, the dream that keeps him awake when the village sleeps. The exams are not just a test of knowledge, they're a test of endurance of will, of the ability to suppress every human impulse for the sake of the empire's order. Young Bao must sit still for hours, his legs numb, his stomach empty, his mind a battlefield of doubt and determination. He must write essays that balance poetry and philosophy, that praise the celestial sovereign without sounding like flattery, that uphold Confucian virtues without revealing his own fears. He must do this in a cubicle that feels like a cage, under the eyes of proctors who watch for the slightest sign of weakness, a smudge, a hesitation, a bead of sweat that betrays nerves. The empire's logic is clear. If you can't survive the exam, you can't survive the court, where scholar officials like Master Shen Bao navigate intrigues as deadly as any battlefield. Young Bao dreams of that life, of walking the jade halls of eternal harmony, of drafting edicts that shape the empire, of being more than a farmer's son. But the path is treacherous, littered with the ghosts of those who tried and failed men, who studied into their 60s, who took the exams dozens of times, who died with ink on their fingers and shame in their hearts. The stories are whispered in the village of Scholar Han, who passed the district exam but collapsed in the provincial round, his heart giving out under the strain, of young Li, who went mad in the Jinshi cubicle, his screams haunting the capital for years. Young Bao carries these stories like stones, each one a reminder of what awaits if he falters. Yet, he persists, driven by a fire that even the empire's weight can't extinguish. His father's quiet pride, his mother's silent prayers, his own stubborn belief that he can be more. The exams are a paradox, a promise of freedom wrapped in chains, a chance to rise that demands you surrender everything, your youth, your health, your joy. Young Bao's nights are sleepless, his days a blur of study and field work, helping old Fang when the harvest demands it, his hands torn between plough and brush. Nailin watches him, her heart aching as she sees his youth slipping away, his face growing thinner, his eyes older than his years. Grandmother Wei, too, watches, her stern face softening when she thinks no one sees. Her prayers to the ancestors a plea for her grandson's success. The village itself is a microcosm of the empire, its gossip a mirror of the court's intrigues, its rules a shadow of the sovereign's laws. Young Bao navigates it all, his head bowed in respect, his heart burning with ambition. The exams are his only shot at glory, but glory in the celestial empire is a double-edged sword. It cuts deep, and not all wounds heal. As the day of the district exam approaches, young Bao prepares to leave the village, his bundle of scrolls tied tightly, his stomach knotted with nerves. The journey to the district capital is a test in itself, 3 days on foot through dusty trails. Past rice paddies and shrines, each step a reminder of the world he hopes to leave behind. Old Feng walks with him to the village edge, his hand heavy on his son's shoulder. His words few but heavy. Bring honor to us, young Bao. Don't let the fields claim you. Mei Lin presses a cloth-wrapped rice cake into his hands, her eyes wet but her voice steady. Come back to us, my son, whether in silk or hemp. Grandmother Wei says nothing, her silence louder than words. Her gaze a command to succeed or die trying. The village watches as young Bao departs, a lone figure against the horizon, carrying the weight of their hopes and their doubts. The exams are a distant star, but they're not the only path out of the fields beyond the village. Beyond the Empire's reach there are whispers of another way, a journey to new lands. A migration through mountains that promise fertile valleys and freedom from the Empire's chains. For those like young Bao, who face the exam's crucible, and for others who dare to dream beyond the rice paddies. The Celestial Empire offers no easy answers, only choices that test the soul. As we orbit deeper into this world, we leave young Bao's ink-stained dreams and turn to those who chose a different path. A perilous trek through the mountains, chasing a promise of paradise that the Empire could never offer. What drove them to abandon the fields for the unknown? And what price did they pay for their courage? Let's follow their footsteps into a journey where hope and despair walk hand in hand. As young Bao's silhouette fades against the horizon, his bundle of scrolls a fragile hope against the weight of the Imperial exams, we turn from the ink-stained dreams of the Celestial Empire's villagers to a different kind of ambition, one that pulls families from their fields toward a promise whispered on the wind, a journey through the mountains to a land where the Empire's rules might loosen their grip. In the 19th century, long after the Tang-inspired days of Old Feng, and young Bao, the Celestial Empire now echoing the Qing dynasty, is a land of restless souls, where farmers and artisans, weary of taxes and toil, hear tales of fertile valleys beyond the towering Tianshan Pass, a rugged spine of rock and ice that guards the Empire's western frontier. The Chen clan, led by brothers Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei, stands at the edge of their village, their ox carts loaded with rice sacks, bamboo tools, and the dreams of a dozen families, ready to chase a new life beyond the Empire's reach. Zhang Hao, the elder, is a farmer like Old Feng once was, his hands rough from years in the paddies, his eyes sharp with a hunger for something more than the endless cycle of planting and paying. Zhang Wei, younger and bolder, carries a map sketched by a wandering merchant, a man named Trader Song, who spoke of a shortcut through the Tianshan Pass, a path to a valley where the soil is rich, the taxes light, and the Emperor's shadow barely reaches. The brothers are no fools, they know the Empire's grip is long, its spies hidden in every market. But Trader Song's words lit a fire in their hearts, a vision of fields, where their children could grow free, where their labor might belong to them, not to a distant sovereign, in eternal harmony. The Chen clan is a patchwork of dreamers, 37 souls, and all farmers like the Liu family, who've lost half their harvest to floods, artisans like Weaver Yan whose silk can't buy her respect, and even outcasts like Soldier Gao, a deserter who knows the mountain's dangers but hopes for redemption in a new land. Their carts creak under the weight of hope, pots and blankets tied tightly, children perched atop sacks, their eyes wide with the thrill of adventure. Meizu, a young woman of 18, walks beside her mother, her bound feet aching with each step, her heart racing with the possibility of a life where jade step binding might not chain her future. The village watches them go, some with envy, others with warnings. The mountains eat dreams. They whisper, but the Chen clan doesn't listen. Their steps quicken as they leave the rice paddies behind, the path ahead winding into the hills where the air grows sharp and the Empire feels just a little smaller. The journey begins with optimism, the sun warm on their backs, the trail wide enough for their carts, lined with bamboo groves that sway like a promise of good fortune. Zhang Hao leads, his voice steady as he calls out directions, while Zhang Wei scouts ahead, his laughter echoing back to the group, a spark of defiance against the unknown. They sing as they walk, old folk songs forbidden in the villages, tales of heroes who defied emperors, their voices rising above the creak of wheels and the lowing of oxen. The children chase each other between carts, their giggles of fleeting rebellion against the Empire's order, their parents too hopeful to scold them. Meizu, quieter than most, keeps a journal, scratching characters onto scraps of cloth with a charred stick. Her words are a record of a journey she believes will change everything. The first days are kind, the path climbs gently, the streams are clear, and wild berries supplement their rice and dried fish. They camp under starlit skies, their fires small but warm, their stories growing bolder with each night. Zhang Hao shares his dream of a farm where no landlord counts his grain. Zhang Wei speaks of a market where merchants like him aren't scorned. Weaver Yan imagines a workshop where her silk earns her a name, not just a wage. Even Soldier Gao, usually silent, tells of a life where he's not branded a traitor, his sword laid down for a plough. The Chanshan Pass looms ahead, its peaks jagged against the sky, but Trader Song's map promises a shortcut, a hidden trail that cuts through the mountain's heart, saving weeks of travel. The clan trusts it, their faith in the merchant's words stronger than their fear of the unknown. But the mountains are not the Empire's fields, the path narrows, the air thins, and the oxen stumble on rocks that seem to sharpen with each mile. The bamboo groves give way to pine, then to barren slopes where the wind howls like a warning. Zhang Wei's laughter fades, his scouting trips grow longer, his face tighter when he returns. The shortcut, he says, is steeper than expected, but still passable, we're almost there. He insists, though his eyes flicker with doubt. The clan presses on, their carts lighter as they eat through their supplies, their steps slower as the trail climbs. Meishu's journal entries grow shorter, the cold bites her fingers and the ink freezes in its pot. The children no longer run, they cling to their mothers, their faces pinched with hunger and fear. Weaver Yan's hands tremble as she mends a torn blanket, her dreams of a new workshop fading with each gust of wind. Soldier Gao walks at the rear, his eyes scanning the ridges, his hand never far from the knife he swore not to use again. Zhang Hao keeps the clan moving, his voice a steady drumbeat, we're close, keep going. The valley's just beyond the pass, but the pass itself is a beast, its slopes slick with frost, its paths crumbling underfoot. The clan's optimism phrase, replaced by whispers of doubt, did Trader Son lie? Was the shortcut a trap? Zhang Wei defends the map, his voice sharp, we're saving time, we'll make it. But his brother's silence speaks louder, a crack in their unity that the mountains seem to widen. The first real trouble comes a week in, a cartwheel snaps on a jagged rock, spilling rice and tools into a ravine. The Liu family, already worn from years of bad harvests, loses half their supplies. Their matriarch, old Mother Liu, weeps quietly, her sobs swallowed by the wind. Zhang Hao rallies the clan, we share what we have. He says, but the math is cruel. 37 mouths, dwindling sacks, and a pass that shows no mercy. They ration their rice, a handful per person, the children crying for more, the adults eating less to quiet them. Meizu offers her share to her younger brother, little Chen, his small hands clutching the grains like treasure. The nights grow colder, the fires weaker, the clan huddling under blankets that can't keep out the chill. Soldier Gao teaches them to build windbreaks from branches, but the wood is scarce, the flames too small to warm their bones. The shortcut, once a promise, now feels like a betrayal. The trail twists through cliffs so narrow the carts must be pushed one by one, the oxen bellowing as their hooves slip. Zhang Wei admits the map is vague, its landmarks faded or wrong, but he urges them forward, the valley's real. I've heard the stories, we're close. Zhang Hao nods, his jaw tight, but his eyes scan the peaks, searching for a sign that doesn't come. The clan's unity begins to crack. The Liu family argues with Weaver Yan over a shared pot. Soldier Gao snaps at a child who strays too far. Meizu writes less, her cloth scraps running out, her hope thinning with them. The mountains are relentless, a storm gathers on the horizon, clouds black as ink, and the air grows heavy with the threat of snow. Zhang Hao calls a halt. The clan camps in a shallow valley, their carts circled like a prayer for protection. They burn their last dry wood, the fire spitting against the damp, their faces drawn as they share stories not of hope but of survival. Tales of ancestors who faced floods and lived, of bandits outwitted, of winters endured. Meizu listens, her hands clutching her journal, her heart torn between fear and defiance. "We'll make it," she whispers to little Chen, but the words feel hollow against the howl of the wind. The storm hits at dawn, a wall of snow and ice that buries the trail, the carts, their dreams. The clan huddles, their breath visible, their bodies shaking, the oxen lowing in panic. Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei try to rally them. "We'll wait it out," they say. But the snow doesn't stop, it piles higher, sealing them in the valley like a tomb. Food runs low, the rice sacks nearly empty, the dried fish gone, the berries long since picked clean. Hunger sets in, a claw in their bellies, sharpening their voices, their eyes. Soldier Gao speaks of trapping rabbits, but the mountains offer nothing, not a hare, not a bird. Weaver Yan's hands, once so skilled, now fumble with frozen thread, her dreams of a workshop lost in the snow. Meizu writes one last entry, "We're trapped, but we're together," her words a flicker of hope against the dark. The clan looks to the brothers, their leaders, but Zhang Hao's steadiness wavers, Zhang Wei's boldness cracks, and the promise of the valley feels like a lie they told themselves. As the snow deepens, the Chanshan Pass becomes not a gateway but a prison. Its peaks mocking their ambition, its cold testing their humanity. The Chen clan's journey, born of hope, now teeters on the edge of despair. Their unity strained, their survival uncertain. Yet, in this frozen valley, they cling to each other, their stories, their will to live. As we orbit through the Celestial Empire's vast history, we leave the Chen clan's faltering steps and peer into the heart of their struggle, where the mountains demand a price no one could have foreseen. What happens when hope runs out, when the Empire's rules can't save you, and survival asks you to become something you never imagined? Let's stay with the Chen clan. As the snow falls heavier and the choices grow darker, the snow falls relentlessly on the Chen clan, burying their ox carts, their hopes, and the promise of the fertile valley beyond the Chanshan Pass, sealing them in a frozen valley, where the Celestial Empire's rules, once so rigid, now feel like a distant dream mocked by the howling wind. The clan, 37 souls led by brothers Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei, huddles in makeshift shelters cobbled from cart frames and tattered blankets, their faces gaunt, their breath visible in the icy air, their world reduced to a struggle against the cold that seeps into their bones, and the hunger that gnaws at their spirits. In this 19th century corner of the Celestial Empire, inspired by the Qing dynasty, the mountains care nothing for the mandate of the cosmos or the emperor's decrees. They demand survival, and the price is higher than anyone could have imagined. Zhang Hao, the elder brother, stands at the center of the camp, his voice hoarse as he rations the last handfuls of rice, his eyes scanning the clan for signs of rebellion or despair. Zhang Wei, once bold with his merchant's map, now paces the perimeter, his hands clenched, his faith in the shortcut shattered but unspoken, lest it break the clan's fragile unity. Meizu, the young woman with a cloth-scrap journal, sits beside her brother, little Chen, wrapping him in her own blanket, her bound feet numb but her resolve unbroken, her eyes searching the snow for a way out. The clan's shelters, patched with ox hides and pine branches, offer little protection. The wind cuts through like a blade, and the fires, fed by scraps of broken carts, flicker weakly against the dark. The rice is gone, the dried fish a memory, and the wild berries that sustained them in the early days are buried under drifts of snow. Hunger is no longer a feeling, it's a presence, a shadow that sharpens their voices, turns neighbors into strangers, and tests bonds forged in the warmth of their village. Old Mother Liu, whose cart broke early in the journey, weeps no longer, her silence more terrifying than her sobs, her eyes hollow as she clutches her grandson, too weak to cry. Weaver Yan, whose hands once spun silk, now tremble as she tries to mend a torn shelter, her fingers too cold to thread a needle, her dreams of a workshop lost in the white expanse. Soldier Gao, the deserter, prowls the camp's edge, his knife glinting in the firelight, his silence a warning that survival might demand more than the clan is ready to give. The first death comes quietly, a child too small to endure the cold her mother's wail swallowed. By the storm, the clan gathers not for a funeral, but for survival, wrapping the tiny body in cloth and placing it in the snow, a grim marker of their plight. Zhang Hao speaks words of unity. We are one family, we endure together, but his voice cracks, and the clan's eyes avoid his, their hunger louder than his promises. Days blur into nights, the snow piles higher, the shelters sag, and the clan's rations dwindle to nothing. The oxen, too weak to stand, are slaughtered, their meat a brief reprieve. But even that runs out, leaving only bones to boil for broth that tastes of despair. Maizu writes no more, her cloth scraps frozen, her strength saved for keeping little Chen alive. His small hands clutching hers, his whispers of home a knife in her heart. The clan's unity phrase arguments flare over the last drops of broth. The Liu family accuses Weaver Yan of hoarding. Soldier Gao snaps at Zhang Wei for his failed map, and Zhang Hao's comm begins to crack his orders. Ignored by those too hungry to care, the mountains, once a path to freedom, now feel like a trap set by the cosmos itself. Their peaks mocking the clan's ambition, their colder judgment on their defiance of the Empire's order. Zhang Wei proposes a desperate plan. A group must break out, cross the pass on foot, and seek help from the villages beyond. The rest will stay, conserving strength, waiting for rescue. Zhang Hao hesitates. The snow is too deep, the path unknown. But the clan's desperation outweighs his caution. 15 volunteers step forward, calling themselves the Hope Caravan, led by Maizu, whose quiet strength has grown louder than her fear. She kisses little Chen's forehead, promising to return, her mother's tears freezing on her cheeks as she joins the group, Soldier Gao at her side, his knife a grim necessity, Weaver Yan and others following, their faces set against the storm. The Hope Caravan sets out, their steps swallowed by snow, their bodies wrapped in every scrap of cloth they can spare. The clan watches them go, a flicker of hope in their eyes. But the mountains are merciless, the trail a blur of white, the wind a roar that drowns their shouts. Back at the camp, Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei struggle to hold the clan together. The remaining 22 souls huddle closer, their breath a shared warmth, their stories a fragile thread against the dark. The days stretch on, the broth gone, the bones picked clean, and hunger pushes the clan to the edge. Whispers of the unthinkable begin, first as a rumor, then as a necessity. Old Mother Liu, her mind fraying, speaks of survival, of what the ancestors would forgive. Her words a spark that horrifies yet lingers. Zhang Hao shuts it down, his voice sharp. We are not beasts, but his eyes betray his fear. The line between human and animal blurring with each empty day. Maizu and the Hope Caravan fight through the pass, their steps slowed by drifts chest high, their bodies battered by wind that feels alive, malicious. Soldier Gao leads, cutting a path with his knife, his soldier's instincts the only guide in a world without landmarks. Weaver Yan collapses, her strength gone, and Maizu carries her, her bound feet screaming but her will unbroken. We move together, she says, her voice a beacon in the storm. They find no villages, no help, only more snow, more cold, and their own hunger, sharper than the ice. One by one, the Hope Caravan falls, some to frostbite, others to exhaustion. Their bodies left in the snow, markers of a dream that died with them. Maizu, Soldier Gao, and 5 others press on, their faces skeletal, their eyes burning with a desperate will to live. They reach a ridge, hoping for a glimpse of the valley, but see only more mountains, endless, unyielding. The unthinkable comes for them too. A fallen companion, too weak to rise, offers himself, eat, live. He whispers, and Maizu weeps, her hands trembling as she takes what she must. Her humanity slipping, but her promise to little Chen holding her together. The act is not spoken of, but it binds them, a secret that weighs heavier than the snow. Back at the camp, the clan teeters on the same edge. A second death, an elder too frail to endure, sparks the same whispers. And this time Zhang Hao cannot stop them. The first cut is made in silence. The clan eating with eyes averted, their prayers to the ancestors a plea for forgiveness. Zhang Wei turns away, his map crumpled in his fist, his guilt a shadow that grows with each bite. The camp becomes a place of survival, not hope, their humanity fraying like the blankets they cling to. Meishu's group, now 7, stumbles on, their bodies weaker, their minds haunted. But a break in the storm reveals a faint trail, a sign of life beyond the pass. They push forward, driven by Meishu's voice. We're almost there, her words less a truth and more a prayer. They find a village, a cluster of huts at the mountain's edge, its people wary but kind, offering rice and shelter, their eyes wide at the Hope Caravan's tale. Meizu collapses, her strength spent, but her message is clear: the clan is trapped, they need help. The villagers promise aid, but the journey back is another battle, the snow still deep, the path treacherous. As the Hope Caravan rests, their survivor a fragile victory, the clan in the valley clings to life. Their numbers dwindling, their hearts heavy with what they've done to endure. Zhang Hao, his leadership worn thin, holds little Chen close, whispering of Meishu's return, a promise he barely believes. The mountains have tested the Chen clan beyond breaking, stripping them of dreams of dignity, but not of their will to live. Their story, born of hope, now etched in sacrifice, is a testament to the human spirit, twisted but unbroken in a world where survival demands everything. As we orbit through the Celestial Empire's vast history, we leave the snowbound valley, where the Chen clan's choices redefined them and turn to the legacy of those who defied the odds. From the frozen past to the halls of power where one woman's ambition rewrote the Empire's rules. How did the survivors carry their scars, and what did their endurance teach a world bound by order? Let's follow their path, from the mountains to the throne, where defiance and survival weave a story that echoes through the ages. As the Chen clan clings to life in the snowbound valley of the Chanshan Pass, their bodies frail, but their spirits stubborn, their story of survival. Through unthinkable choices echoes beyond the mountains, intertwining with the legacy of a woman whose ambition reshaped the Celestial Empire itself, a tale that binds the humblest outcast to the heights of power in a world where endurance is the only currency that matters. The survivors of the Hope Caravan, led by Meizu, stagger into a village. At the mountain's edge, their faces skeletal, their hands trembling from cold and guilt, carrying the weight of what they did to live, yet driven by a promise to save those left behind. Meizu, her bound feet scarred but unyielding, collapses in a villager's hut. Her voice hoarse as she pleads for rescue. The Chen clan is trapped, she says. Her words a lifeline thrown across the snow. The villagers, hardened by their own battles with the mountains, gather supplies, rice, blankets, and men to brave the pass, their steps slow but determined, guided by Soldier Gao, whose knife now cuts a path for salvation rather than survival. Back in the valley, Zhang Hao holds the clan together, his leadership a flickering flame against the dark, his arms around little Chen, whispering of Meishu's return, a hope he clings to as tightly as the boy. Zhang Wei, his brother, sits apart, his crumpled map a reminder of the shortcut that led them here, his guilt heavier than the snow that buries their carts. The clan, now 20, their numbers dwindled by cold and hunger, shares the last of their broth, their eyes avoiding the bones that sustained them, their prayers to the ancestors a desperate plea for forgiveness. The rescue comes like a dream, faint shouts in the storm, torches piercing the white. The villagers arrive with sleds and supplies, their faces a mirror of the clan's exhaustion but lit with purpose. Meizu, carried by Soldier Gao, leads them to the camp. Her reunion with little Chen a moment of raw joy, her tears freezing on his cheeks as she holds him close. The clan is pulled from the valley, their bodies weak, their hearts scarred but alive. Their journey to the promised valley abandoned for the simpler goal of survival. They return to the Empire not as heroes but as outcasts, their story whispered in markets and villages, the Chen clan who ate their own to live a tale that brands them with shame. Even as it speaks of their resilience, the Empire's rules, once so rigid, offer no mercy for their choices. Their neighbors shun them, their fields reclaimed by landlords who call their survival a curse. Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei rebuild in silence, their bond strained but unbroken, their hands working the same paddies they once fled, their dreams of freedom buried in the snow. Meizu, stronger than anyone expected, becomes a quiet leader, her journal scraps hidden but her voice steady, teaching little Chen to read, to dream beyond the village's scorn. Soldier Gao disappears, his knife left behind, his redemption found in the lives he saved, not in the Empire's forgiveness. Weaver Yan, her hands still trembling, weaves again, her silk a defiance of the past, her workshop a small rebellion against the world that judges her. The Chen clan's story, though whispered as a tragedy, is a testament to endurance, a thread in the Empire's tapestry that refuses to break, even under the weight of shame. Far from the mountains, in the heart of eternal harmony, another story of endurance unfolds, one That began centuries earlier in a time when the Celestial Empire was ruled by the Phoenix Dawn dynasty, a reimagined echo of the Tangzhou dynasty where a woman named Mei Ling rose from the shadows of the palace to seize the throne itself. Mei Ling, born a concubine's daughter, was no stranger to the empire's chains. Her early years spent in the inner court, her beauty a tool, her mind a weapon. The palace was a labyrinth of silk and suspicion where concubines like her mother, Lady Yan, served at the emperor's whim, their lives a delicate dance of favor and betrayal. Mei Ling, sharp-eyed and sharper-witted, learned early to navigate this world. Her words soft but her ambition fierce. Her steps calculated to climb a ladder no woman was meant to touch. The empire's Confucian order demanded women bow, serve, produce sons. But Mei Ling saw the cracks in that order, the emperor's weakness, the court's greed, the scholar's arrogance. She began as a scribe, her calligraphy flawless, her presence unnoticed, copying edicts while listening to whispers of power. Her rise was slow, deliberate. She charmed the emperor's son, gained his trust. Then his father's ear, her suggestions subtle, her influence invisible. When the emperor fell ill, his court fractured. Scholar officials like Master Shen Bao's ancestors vied for control. But Mei Ling moved faster. Her alliances with Buddhist monks and minor officials a net that caught the throne when it fell. She declared herself Empress of the Phoenix Dawn, her title a challenge to the cosmos itself, a woman claiming the mandate of the cosmos in a world that called such ambition blasphemy. Her reign, spanning decades, was a revolution cloaked in tradition. She reformed the imperial exams, opening them to men of lower birth, men like young Bao's ancestors, who might never have dreamed of silk robes without her decree. She built temples, patronized Buddhist monks, their chants a counterpoint to Confucian rigidity. Her policies a bridge between the empire's past and its future. But her power came at a cost. The court whispered of her ruthlessness, of rivals exiled, of enemies silenced, her hands as stained as those of the Chen clan, though with ambition rather than hunger. The scholar officials, men who saw women as shadows, called her a usurper, their scrolls decrying her as a fox spirit, a demon in silk. Yet Mei Ling endured, her throne a symbol of defiance, her reforms a legacy that outlasted the venom of her critics. Like the Chen clan, she faced a world that judged her survival, her choices branded as unnatural. Yet her entrance reshaped the empire just as the clan's survival reshaped their village. Their story a whisper of hope against the empire's iron grip. The Chen clans returned to their village mirrors Mei Ling's rise in one truth. Entrance is not pretty, it's raw, human and often unforgiven. The clan rebuilds their fields the same, but their hearts changed. Mei Zhu teaching her brother to read her journal, a secret history of survival. Zhang Hao and Zhang Wei working side by side, their silence a bond stronger than words. The empire moves on, its markets bustling, its temples rising, but the Chen clan's story lingers, a tale of those who faced the mountains and lived, their scars a badge of their humanity. Mei Ling's legacy, too, endures. Her reforms etched into the exams that gave men like young Bao a chance, her name whispered in awe and fear. A woman who defied the cosmos and won, if only for a time. The Celestial Empire, from its rice paddies to its jade halls, is a world built on endurance, on the stubborn will of farmers like old Feng, dreamers like young Bao, survivors like the Chen clan, and rebels like Mei Ling. Their stories, though centuries apart, weave together a truth. The empire's grandeur was not in its rules, but in its people, their struggles, their sacrifices, their refusal to break. The Chen clan's survival, marked by choices no one should face, speaks to the same resilience that carried Mei Ling to the throne, a resilience that lives in every soul who dares to dream beyond their place. The empire's history is not just a record of emperors and wars. It's a tapestry of human endurance, of those who bowed but never broke, who starved but still shared, who defied the odds and lived to tell the tale. As we orbit back from the frozen peaks of the Tianshan Pass and the glittering halls of eternal harmony, we see the Celestial Empire for what it was, a world of beauty and brutality where survival was a rebellion and endurance a victory. The Chen clan's scars, Mei Ling's throne, young Bao's dreams, old Feng's toil. They remind us that history is not just about the past, It's about the human spirit, raw, flawed, and unstoppable. So, as we close this journey through the Celestial Empire, let's carry their stories forward. Hit that subscribe button for History Orbit to keep exploring the past with us. Drop a comment, tell us what moved you, what you learned, where you're watching from tonight. The Empire's lessons are timeless. Endurance isn't pretty, it's powerful, it's human, it's us. As we leave the Chen clan and Mei Ling behind, their stories linger, but another tale waits. One of new horizons, new struggles, new triumphs. Let's orbit toward it, chasing the next chapter of history's endless, unbreakable thread.